Hey everyone, and welcome back to the SCREENY. There's nothing quite like settling down in front of the TV to watch Gordon Ramsay rip restaurateurs a new one. In most cases, it's not hard to see why these businesses are struggling. They're so disorganized that they can't run a proper dinner service, and the chefs are usually working in complete filth of their own making. Over the years, the outspoken chef has seen some horrendous kitchens that make us feel sick to the stomach. Are you ready to see some of these monstrosities up close? Join us as we take a look at the worst kitchens Gordon Ramsay has ever seen. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos about your favorite movies and TV shows.
Look, it's fucking rotten, you fucking idiot. It's rotten.
DILLON'S. On a scale of 1 to 10, DILLON'S has to be a solid 50 in terms of disgustingness. Gordon was served old lamb with a side of older potatoes for his meal at the New York City Indian restaurant, and when he headed into the kitchen to confront the chef, he was shocked at what he found. The entire area was littered with fly papers covered with dead flies. There was a pot of sauce that had long gone moldy, along with green chicken and burgers growing their very own fungi. The basement wasn't any better. When Gordon headed into the murky depths below the restaurant, he immediately stumbled upon tons of cockroaches and rat poop. But at least there were lots of traps to try and catch the suckers, right, Jeff? General Manager Martin ended up trying to sue Ramsay and wanted the episode scrapped before it hit the airwaves, but it was thrown out of court. Unsurprisingly, the restaurant closed 2 years later. Secret Garden. It might have a charming name, but the California French restaurant had some awful things lurking in its depths. French chef Michael Bar-David was over $300,000 in debt when he called in the help of the world's most popular cook. But even Gordon wasn't sure if he could be saved. After an underwhelming meal, Gordon inspects the kitchen and is so disgusted with what he finds that he vomits in the bathroom. The fridge is covered with moldy food and is even growing its own on the metal racks and shelves. The potatoes are infested with maggots, and Gordon even questions whether the place should be open. Michael claims that the fridge was sorted out in the last 24 hours, which is a blatant lie. The owner tries to justify his repulsive storage by saying that no kitchen is perfect, even going as so far as to ask Gordon what his kitchen is like. The restaurant struggled on with Michael at the helm for an impressive 9 years after filming, but closed its doors for good in 2016, which is probably for the best.
This is a horror show.
Old Neighborhood Restaurant. If you've got a weak stomach, you might want to look away now. This is not for the faint-hearted. From the outside, Old Neighborhood Restaurant in Arvada, Colorado looks like a pretty quaint and harmless place to be. Unfortunately, for anyone that ever ate there, they probably unknowingly got a side of bacteria with their main dish. It was quite obvious from the interior of the establishment that cleanliness was not high on the priority list for owner Randy. But even hardened Gordon was taken aback at the state of the kitchen. The walk-ins was stacked high with different types of food, with meat being stored next to the vegetables. Along with the high risk of cross-contamination, there was a dead mouse and plenty of yummy mold. The entire place is in such a state that Gordon thinks it might be beyond help, but he's persuaded to stay when Chef Alexa begs him. He agrees on the premise that the kitchen is cleaned from top to bottom, which is hardly unreasonable. The episode was aired in 2014, and Randy and his wife sold the business 2 years later after 36 years.
This is shocking.
TROBIANO'S. There are thousands of eateries in New York City, and not all of those are going to be grade A rated. Unfortunately for the Italian restaurant TROBIANO'S, they could barely scrape a Z. After sampling the early bird special, Gordon initially leaves but decides to come back to take a look at the kitchen. Not only are the plates stacked in the kitchen ready to go out to customers still filthy, but so are the ovens and the floors. When he asks the owner Anthony about the cleaning schedule, he flippantly says that the cleaning is down to the staff and not to him. He doesn't lift a finger. Gordon investigates further and pulls out some of the appliances to discover mice droppings lurking underneath them on the countertops. The chef really goes in on the management team, asking how they can possibly serve food from such a badly kept kitchen, but it seems to make little impact. It was obvious that the business was swallowed in debt, but Gordon's help couldn't do much to save them. As it turns out, the entire restaurant was seized less than 1 month after the episode aired in 2008 due to unpaid taxes.
You're gonna kill someone! I'm eating here! Partners in crime! You should be shamed!
HANNA and Masons. This New Jersey bistro is next on the menu, owned by Brian and Chris. Both the guys had worked as chefs for the previous owner, but they still didn't really get the fact that food is meant to be eatable. Gordon watched on in horror as the team tried to roll out orders for Valentine's Day. First, he pulled them up on the display dessert trolley, which was basically a bunch of week-old dishes shown to the customers so they could pick. Next, Gordon was horrified to discover a member of staff was sending out salads with rotten spinach on them. When he questioned whether the vegetables were washed before being sent out, he was told no. It doesn't stop there either. When he delves deeper into the fridge, it turns out that one of the week-old desserts have been served, and there's a bunch of rotting fish leaking its delicious juices in the same vicinity. Gordon asks to see the walk-ins and finds mountains of raw chicken sat directly on top of cooked chicken. That was the last straw for the Brit, who marched upstairs furiously and stopped service in its tracks. Chris blames the eventual closure of HANNA and Mason's on Gordon's new menu. Charming. Finn McCool's. You'd think that being based in trendy West Hampton, family-run restaurant Finn McCool's could do pretty well. They probably could have, if the food had been up to scratch. When Gordon is served a shepherd's pie, it's so greasy that he throws up in the toilet.
Second door on the left.
Oh no.
The next day, he takes a look at the kitchen and is aghast to find dusty shelves caked with grease, a wad of aging bacon, and a shelf full of refrigerated shepherd's pies that are probably older than him. Cooked chicken wings are stored directly next to raw meat, while a suspicious bucket of murky water lurks nearby. Half-served plates of food with the utensils still in lay around the fridge, and all of the equipment looked as if it hasn't seen the good side of a scrubbing brush for decades. Gordon finds one of his own cookbooks on the shelf and jokes that it's the only clean thing in the place. The team deep cleans the cesspit, but it doesn't stop the food served the next day from being cold and inedible for the local firefighters. Business did improve after Gordon's visit, but surprise, surprise, Finn McCool's also succumbed to the Ramsay curse and ceased trading in 2012. Luckily for owner Buddy, he had sold it in 2009, but his family continued to work there until the bitter end.
Looks like lava and crap.
SEASCAPE. Yet another New York restaurant that was desperately in need of Gordon's sage advice. Everything was awful from the get-go. From the dining room that smelled like sewage to the rock-hard homemade cookie that the owner gave him to try. When the chef dons his whites and heads into the kitchen to witness a service, it's all too clear why the place is struggling. Owner Peter used to watch his father run the busy eatery in the glory days, serving up to 300 covers a night, but he is is too weak-willed to take charge. One of the chefs spills a can of tomato sauce on the floor and leaves the mess. And rather than tell his staff to clean it up, Peter does it himself. That's the beginning of the end, as Gordon realizes the place is caked in grease and dirt. The next morning, he does a full inspection, discovering layers of grime on the walls and rotten food in the fridge, which also includes a pot of moldy pesto that he was served the day before. Despite a successful relaunch, the Seascape was proof that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and the family reverted back to their old ways as soon as Gordon was on the flight home. In no time at all, the business was sold and a steakhouse currently resides in its place.
I couldn't do it because of these little here. Look at them.
Fiesta Sunshine. The kitchen at this Mexican restaurant actually looks pretty clean in comparison to some of the ones we've seen. But don't let that fool you. There were terrible things lurking underneath the polished exterior of Fiesta Sunrise in West Nyack. Owners Vic, Patty, and Yolanda looked on in horror as Gordon unearthed 2 pots of old rice stored in a fridge containing moldy water, while a server returned chips sent back by a customer and put them back in the serving tray. There were also week-old chicken breasts that had grown an impressive sheet of mold. What else would you expect? After all, this isn't Kitchen Dreams. In all seriousness, the stuff the superstar chef encountered is enough to put you off enchiladas for life. Gordon delves into another fridge to discover chives that are 5 months past their sell-by date, and fish that smelt rotten that was being served to customers then and there in the restaurant. Unbelievably, the worst is yet to come. Chef Ramsay soon discovers that a garbage bin full of refried beans is being served to customers. And when he orders Vic to take it out to show the customers, he refuses, so Gordon closes down the restaurant. When he comes back the following day, he discovers an infestation of cockroaches behind a stack of plates. Following on from unpaid taxes and an incident involving a stabbing, Fiesta Sunrise was closed before the episode had even aired. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more amazing content, and don't forget to check out one of the other 2 videos on your screen.